Welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Little Yazzie, and if you're not, love y'all. Thank you guys for supporting and coming back. So what are we doing today? What is the plan for today's video? Why am I sitting here? Why do I have my little mic? Shout out to my mother who bought me this for this reason. But as you guys know, a few months ago, I created my first preaching on this channel called The Season of Solitude. If you guys haven't checked it out, go check it out. If you are like me, who was in a season where I always wanted to be in a relationship, I wanted to have that, the perks of being in a relationship, but then God was like, no. You need to learn why every single season and the season of singleness is important. Go check that out, because honestly it was eye-opening, and as I was going through it, it was just like, okay, I get it now. I understand why I need to be single right now. And guys, if you guys are just interested why it's important to be in a season of singleness or a season of solitude, go and check that one out. I honestly love it, and for it being my first preaching, it was honestly really cool and it was a fun experience. But we're talking about my first preaching. What about my second preaching? That's why I'm here. That is why we are doing this video. Welcome to my second preaching, guys. I honestly have so many preachings. I told my Instagram, if you guys are not following on my Instagram, go follow me, not only on Instagram, TikTok, any social media platform right here. Go follow me. I was on my Instagram and I was like, okay, I have so many preachings, and I've been telling them, okay, I'm going to record them. I've been trying to record them, guys, but life has just been busy. But then the other day I was just sitting here studying. It was literally 9:30, studying my preachings, and then God was just like, you already know this. You know this from the back of your mind. Go record it. Get ready. 9:30 p.m. Get ready and record this. And I was like, okay, God, it's 9:30, but if you're telling me to do this, then I'm gonna listen. I got here and I recorded it, or I'm recording it right now. And guys, let me just tell you, when God calls you to do something, you do not question it, you just do it. And that is why I'm here. This is what this video is about. My second preaching on this channel. So guys, this is gonna be an interesting one. This is gonna be fun. And honestly, I'm gonna tell you from the bottom of my heart, this is a season that has been one of the hardest things. I am 18, so there is so much that comes with that. So you guys might get a little feeling about this. And honestly, for viewers my age who are currently going through the same thing, I know how you're feeling, because I'm struggling through this season right now. And people who are going through it doesn't matter if you're 18, if you're older and you're still going through this and you're going through this again, guys, shout out to you guys. I just hope that you guys are staying strong like me. But anyways, guys, let's get straight into it. Let's go. Guys, if you guys have any questions about this preaching or something in the Bible, do not be afraid to comment it. I will answer them as soon as possible. I honestly would love that you guys ask questions, because it just shows that you guys want a deeper understanding of what I'm talking about. So don't be afraid. Go ahead and do that. I know for me, like my dad, trust me, we literally had a 4-hour conversation the other day of me just asking questions about the Bible. He got a little annoyed, but it's better to be super curious, because it just shows that you want to learn more about God. And I love that, okay? Like, curiosity is amazing for you. So yeah, guys, or if there is anything that you're going through, or you want to learn more about the Bible, or there's just questions that you have about the Bible or about God, then go ahead, comment them, and I will make a video and answer as many questions. Or I'll make even preachings, because some of the things that you guys have been through, maybe I have already been through, and I would love to give you guys the wisdom that I have gained from those experiences. So just be free. This is a non-judgmental zone. You guys are amazing. I'm not gonna judge you. I do not like that judgment. Like, we're all made differently, so it's okay. So yeah, guys, I also hope that you guys go into this preaching with an open mind, and you guys are able to apply whatever I'm talking about into your life. So before I start and before we do anything, what is the one thing we need to do before we get into our preachings, before we start studying, before anything, is prayer. Let me tell you guys, something that I've been learning a lot is that prayer is super important and prayer is super powerful. So let's not skip on that. And that is something I do want to start doing. I have seen other podcasts where they will pray. And honestly, I want to do that because I feel like even though it's during, like, we're in a video, the power of prayer is still important. And it's still able to, the power is just so important, and I don't feel like a video is gonna stop that. And I feel like, whatever I pray, somebody may need this prayer. So yeah, let's just go straight into that. Let's just bow our heads, close our eyes. God, give me the power because I'm a little nervous. Okay. Thank you, God, for everything that you have done for us. Thank you for allowing us to be here in this season. Thank you for working with us and continuing to give us the power to get through every season that we are in, God. I ask you to give me the power to just speak what you have put on my heart, that this message may be received by anybody who needs it, God. And I know that you have put this in my heart and you have put me through the season to learn what this preaching means so that I can give it to other people who are struggling through this, that it may help them. That you put me through these seasons to continue to help others, God. And I just ask you to continue to use me and allow your Holy Spirit to just speak through me, that whatever is happening in somebody's life, that you know where this video will go and you know where this video will take people. So I just ask you to continue to use whatever you need to use, God. And I just pray over the people watching it, that whatever season they're in or whatever they're going through currently, that you just help them through it, that they know who you are, that they can feel the love that you have shown me, God. And I just ask you for protection over every single person, even if they're not going through something, that they just continue to confide in you, God. And I just ask that you bless them and you love them and that they continue to grow with you, God. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Okay, let's get straight into it. So for this preaching, honestly, guys, it was random. So random. No, I'm not even gonna lie. It wasn't random. I'm gonna be real with you guys. It's something that I've been going through a lot. And those who know, I am a senior year, proud year graduate of 2025. I'm freaking nervous. I have not stopped contemplating what am I going to do with my life. And honestly, because of that, I have just been feeling so much anxiety, so much I've just been feeling so many negative things just telling me you're not going to be able to get into the school, you can't do this, you can't do that. And just something that is very common with me is overthinking. So I'm like, okay, I have to have a plan. I need to have a plan. And because of that mindset, the season that I'm currently in, God is like, I know you have a plan, but I have a better plan for you. And I'm going to need you to trust me. And see, that's been a struggle for me, trusting God in whatever season he's gonna put me through next. And as I continue to grow and I continue to just be like, God, okay, I'm gonna trust you, I'm gonna try, I'm struggling a bit, but I know that you will help me get through this. And I just gave it all to him. And then the month later, I went to LA. And when I went to LA, it was so fun. Literally, I did not stop. I was literally nonstop. I was going out every single day. I was having fun. I was having the time of my life. And then, bam, something hit me. And I was like, God, am I meant to be here? Where am I supposed to go? And it was so random because it was I felt like God was telling me, you're gonna come back here. And I was like, God, am I meant to come back here? And something with me, and the issue with me is I'm expecting it to be like that. I think that, when he says that, he's going to be next year, you're going back to LA. But in reality, it was no, slow down, calm down. It's not your timing, it's my timing. Trust my timing. And I prayed, literally, the week of, and I was like, God, I have no idea what my next step is going to be. I don't know where you want me to go. Please help me and show me what you want me to do. And then the weekend, my mom comes. literally the night she comes, we're literally sitting down having a conversation. Shout out to my mom for giving me this, okay? Shout out to my mom because she has been helping me get through this. Like, I have not seen her in so long, and literally the day she comes, she's like, God has something. Like, she's like, there's a reason I'm here. There's a reason that I came this day. Because let me tell you, it's been a struggle. Since I got there, we were trying to meet up, but things always got in the way. And I was like, the first time she didn't come, I was crying. And then God was like, I didn't allow you to meet her today for a reason. Everything I do in your life is for a reason. And then the weekend she comes, the night she comes, she's like, she I don't even know how to explain it, guys. Like, she was on fire. She was like, what do you want to do? What is your plan? And I'm like, I want to be a nurse. And then she's like, what happened to being a doctor? And I was like, what do you mean? And then she's like, you're lowering yourself. I didn't think I was doing that. She basically said that I put myself like in a safety zone. And she's like, why aren't you being a doctor? And I was like, it's too much money. It's too long. And then she's like, but you know you can. And I was like, I had doubt in my heart. I'm like, I don't know if I could be a doctor because I kind of just like settled for being an RN. And then she's like, there's your answer. And I told her, I didn't tell her anything. I didn't tell her that was something that I was thinking of. But she's like, you have been dreaming about this since you were a kid. God put this in your heart for a reason. She's like, stop settling for less when God has so much more for you. I'm telling you this. This is not even the beginning of the preaching, okay? So she told me that. She's basically told me, God wants you to be a doctor. That's your next step. Then I came back here, and of course, maybe me, I started overthinking it. I'm like, God, do you really want me to be a doctor? Like me? Like, why me? Like, I don't understand. Like, and then I started looking more into it, and I'm like, God, being a doctor? Like, I didn't do all these extracurricular programs. I didn't even know I wanted to be a doctor till this year. And since I've been researching it, it's just like all these exceptional freaking amazing applicants, and then you see my transcript and I'm like, God, I don't know, like, will I even be able to get into these programs? And then I was like, again, literally the night I prayed, I was like, God, I need confirmation. And I've also been struggling with the promise that he told me, you're going to be a worship leader. So I was like, how does that go side by side? Like, being a doctor is like a full-time thing. How am I going to have time for a worship leader, you know? So then I was like, I prayed about it. I'm like, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm feeling so anxious. I feel like no peace, and I need peace. I need to, like, I basically said, God, I need answers. That's where I went wrong. I said, God, I need answers. And that night, guys, that night I had a dream. It was a random dream. But you know the one thing that stood out to me? Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11, I woke up 3 o'clock. I opened it and I started reading it. But then I knocked out again. But then the next morning, why is that relevant? Why is that relevant? I just want to say, like, sometimes, you know, you fall asleep when God's calling you to do something, which could be another preaching. I mean, who knows? But guys, anyway, going back to it. The next morning, I started reading it. You know what stood out to me? Hebrews 11, 13 to 18. Now let's get straight into this preaching. I gave you guys a little bit of background information about the things that I'm going through. Now, why Hebrews 11, 13 to 18? This is the preaching that I'm going for. This is the name of my preaching. If you guys are taking notes, I recommend taking notes. Something that I've learned from youth camp. By the way, I went to youth camp last week. That video is coming up soon if you guys are interested in it. It was fire. It was amazing. I also got some confirmation from there, but that's in my other video. So I will be posting that in a few weeks. But yeah, guys, take notes. Notes makes it stick in your head. And sometimes when you're going through the same seasons, because God will put you through seasons that you've already been in, because he expects you to learn from them and deal with them in a different manner. But that's another thing. Take notes, because in those seasons where you're going through something similar again, you can always go back to it, or you guys can come back to this. Either way, I honestly do want to create a PDF. Maybe I'll create a PDF and you guys can save it to your phone, and whenever you feel the need to read it, go ahead. So the name of the preaching is It's Not About the Promise. Shall we get straight into it? Okay, so Hebrews 11:13 to 18. Something I do want to say is that through reading Hebrews 11, I have gotten so many preachings. Originally, I thought it was just one preaching, but as I continued to study it, I had realized that there are so many different preachings that can come out of Hebrews 11, and it honestly is one of the things that has been so impactful to me in the season that I'm in, because it's basically about faith, walking by faith. And the title of Hebrews 11 is Faith in Action. And honestly, guys, if you guys are just interested, read it. Read all of it, study it, break it down, and maybe you guys will see some of the things that I have seen. So it says, Hebrews 11:13 to 18. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things so that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. 17. By faith Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had embraced the promise was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, "It is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead, and so in a manner of speaking, he did receive Isaac back from the dead. So one thing I do want to point out is Hebrews 11:13. It said they lived by faith to the day they died. And one of the things that I have been learning is that you do not live by faith from that one thing. Like, that one day where you just decide, God, I want to follow you. But you continue to fight that battle every single day. It says, one of the hardest things to do is to continue to say, God, you are my everything. God, I follow you. God, I know you. I want to have that relationship with you. And why am I pointing this out? Because if you read the Bible, why I say the Bible is freaking amazing, I used to think that every single person, a Christian, had to be perfect. But then I continued to read the Bible, and then I realized that God uses anybody. God can use the most wicked people for his good. And one of the reasons I'm talking about this is because I used to be like, I have to be perfect. I have to be perfect. But then God's like, one of the hardest things to do is to continue to say yes to me. When I was in LA, I had done a preaching. My youth leader had literally just springed it on me. She's like, the night of, she was like, I want you to do a preaching. And then she gave me a topic, and I'm like, okay. And then as I was doing that preaching, one of the things that my tia had told me, she was like, being with God is an everyday yes. Some days it's going to be hard, and some days it's going to be like, God, I don't want to follow you. But you have to say yes, because through everything, God will be by your side. And it's so crazy because when I came back, I looked at my vision board for 2024, and it says this: saying yes to God is not a one-time experience at an altar call. It is a daily surrender in the good times and hard. See, every single person in the Bible had their ups and downs. Every single person had their season where they're one of them that I learned about recently was Solomon. let me pull it up. Hold on, let me pull it up. Okay, so I pulled up the story of Solomon, and Solomon is known for being the king of Israel who built the first temple in Jerusalem. He was also the second after his father David, and the last king of unified Israel, which was the height of its power during his reign. He is known for stories told in the Bible about his wisdom. So as I was editing, I had decided to go more into depth about his story just because I want you guys to have a full grasp on where I'm going with this, because I don't think I pointed it out into detail. So here's the story of Solomon. I had pointed out the good things. He is the king of Israel. He is the son of David. He ruled with mighty wisdom. Now let me tell you how he got that wisdom. So in 1 Kings chapter 3, it talks about how Solomon got a dream. God appeared in his dream, and in that dream God had told him, "You can ask for anything. What do you want?" And then his response was, "God, give me a heart and a mind to rule your kingdom." And basically asking for wisdom. He's saying, "Your servant is here among the people you have chosen, a great people too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong, for who is able to govern this great people of yours." So he basically said, give me a heart and mind to rule as if you were ruling. And then God was so pleased by his answer that he's like, "You know what? Because you didn't ask for something selfish or something for yourself, but you asked for something for my people, I'm not gonna just give you that, but I'm also gonna give you honor and wealth." So see, that's where his story begins for me. But then you go into chapter 11, like I said, everybody has their goods and everybody has their bads. And this is where Solomon kind of fell with God. Chapter 11, Solomon's wives. So Solomon, here is one command that God gave Solomon. You can marry any woman, but they have to be Israelite. They have to follow me. Because at that time, there were other women, but they followed false gods. And the one thing that God was worried about is that if he fell in love with a woman that was not of his people, of somebody who believed in him, then he had fear that they would change him. They would make him go to their false gods. And that is exactly what happened. See, it says here, as Solomon grew old, his wife turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God as the heart of David, his father, had been. Which is funny because that's what stood out to me, as his father had been. Because there's which I said, God uses anybody despite what they have done, whether good and bad. Every Christian has their good and bad, because if you look into the story of David, it talks about how God said the same thing to him, or similar story, and he said, one thing that I noticed is that in the old times, adultery was one of the biggest sin, and God was so against that, and he still is. But God basically told him, the city back then was basically you could have many wives, but you can't marry somebody who is already married. And he fell in love with this girl who was married. And in doing so, he's like, okay, I'm going to send her husband to the front lines to die. And then once he had died, he married her. So see, not every Christian is going to be perfect. But let me get back to the story of Solomon. So basically, he turned from God. He started believing in these false gods. And one of the crazy things is that no matter how much you know God, sometimes the enemy is going to turn your head. Sometimes he's going to try so hard. That's one of the enemy's main things. He's going to try so hard to get you away from God, because he knows what you can do when you're by God, when you're following God. And the funny thing, and the reason why I'm explaining this story, and I started with, okay, he followed and was devoted to God from the very beginning. He asked God, let me serve your people in a way that you would serve them. To a point where he's like, I don't even know if I believe in you anymore. I'm turning from you because I fell in love with somebody and they're turning my head towards something else. And God was like, I'm not going to allow you to do that. One of the 10 commandments is do not worship other gods. And as I'm talking about this, I'm realizing why it is important to say yes to God, why it's not just a one-time thing at the altar. Like I said, saying yes to the call of God is not a one-time experience at an altar call. It's a daily surrender in the good times and the hard. Because let me tell you, when you say yes to God, that is the first step you need to do in the morning. Every single day, once you say yes to God, no matter what, God is going to have your back. God is going to help you get through that day, which is one thing that I'm also learning, to take one day at a time, because there's so many things that happen in one day and we're always worried about the future that we need to slow down and just be like, okay, God, help me get through this day, that you have everything planned for my future. So help me get through this day today, and then we'll worry about tomorrow. When you walk with God and say yes to God, you grow your relationship with God. When you grow your relationship with God, no matter how much the enemy tries to get at you, your faith becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. For example, I play volleyball, and in volleyball, I have to constantly be working on my plyometric, which is my jump. In order to get a stronger jump, I have to continue to work at it. But see, if I don't work at it and continue to put in the effort to work at it, then my jump starts slowly going back to what it originally was. And that's the exact same thing that it happens with God. We need to say yes to Him every single day and continue to work on our relationship with God, because the enemy is constantly attacking us. But as we continue to grow in our relationship with God, our faith gets so strong that no matter what, when the enemy is trying to give me anxiety, when it's trying to get in my head, you're like, no, God has everything under control. When I'm worrying about my future, no, God is like, I have it under control. You know who I am. You know I have a plan for you. Calm down. See, that is crazy, right? Like, when we have God, when we have that relationship with God, no matter what, nothing will get in us. Nothing will get in our way, because we have God. And that's only the main point. Now let's get to the next point. Honestly, guys, that was literally that wasn't part of my preaching, but it came up. And I'm like, okay, what does the story of Solomon have to do with this preaching? And it says, saying yes to God is not a one-time experience at altar call. It's a daily reminder in the good times and the hard. So how does that relate to what I'm talking about? They lived by faith to the day they died. So as we continue to go through these seasons, as we continue to go through these battles, sometimes we're going to experience things, sometimes we're going to fall, but the answer to everything is faith. Knowing who God is, knowing what we need to do, knowing that we have this amazing book that helps us get through everything. And that is where it goes into my next point, where it says, the next part of 13, it says, they only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. So these people died without their promise, but they had faith when they died. That doesn't make sense. Honestly, I feel like for me, it would have been this is my own mindset before I learned a little more about this, but for me, I would have been like, God, am I really gonna die and you haven't fulfilled my promise? What's going on? But then where it says this, they did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had the opportunity to return. Instead, they were looking for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for He has prepared a city for them. So their faith in God. They had faith till the day they died because of their faith that they knew who God was. And that is something that is so important. Do you truly know God? And that was another thing that He taught me as I was going through this season. He was like, do you even know me? If you know me, you wouldn't have doubt. He's like, if I told you that this is what I'm promising you, I'm going to give it to you. No matter if it's in your time, in 20 years, in 40 years, or even when you die, or even your grandkids, I am going to fulfill that promise. And that is another thing I want to point out. Is like, do we truly know who God is? Do we truly know what God has for us? And as I was going through this, I was like, oh, maybe I don't know God. Maybe I need to learn more about God. And instead of focusing on the promise that he had told me, instead of focusing on like, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a worship leader, he was like, go to me. Grow your relationship in me. See, these people here had faith to the very end because they knew who I was. They knew that I would fulfill their promise. They knew who I am. They had such a deep love for me that even if they didn't fulfill the promise, even if I didn't fulfill their promise, I still loved them. I still gave them everything. And it's like, that's what we need to focus on, because it's like, we focus so much on that promise, focus so much on the benefits of God. But in reality, it's like, we would have none of those benefits without God. And when we do have God, those benefits come. So it's like, our main priority shouldn't be about the benefits, like, the gifts that he gives us. And it's the funny thing is that at the youth camp, that was one of the things they said. Do not focus so much on the gifts, but focus on God, because these gifts are nothing without God. And that's true. My gifts of my vocals, I have so many, I'm not going to explain every single one, but all these gifts that he has given me would mean nothing if they're not for God. Like, what's the point of singing if it's not to help people? For example, there's so much music out in this world that literally says so many negative things, and it's like, why would I want to use my voice to impact things that I don't believe in? But because I know God, I want to use my voice and the gifts he has given me to help people, to show them the love that God has shown me, to show people what God has shown me in my life. And it's like, I wouldn't be doing any of this if I didn't know who God was. I wouldn't be sitting here doing this preaching when in reality so many people can cancel me, can bash me, can send me death threats. The amount of people who I have seen being crushed by social media because they speak of God is crazy. But it's like, that means nothing because I have God. And that's exactly what I want to point out in Hebrews 13-18. They're like, I have faith. By faith, I'm walking with God, not for his promises, not for the benefits, but because we know God. And as we continue to just break it down, when we go to the story of Abraham, when God tested him and offered Isaac as a sacrifice, he who had embraced the promise was about to sacrifice his one and only son. God had promised him Isaac. God had been like, you're gonna have a son. But then he's like, I need to know that my promise I need to know that I'm more important than the promise that I had promised you. And now that you have this promise, are you still gonna follow me? Are you still gonna do what I need you to do? And that is exactly why God tested him. He's like, I gave you this. Are you going to keep following me? And that is another reason why, like, it's not about the promise. And why sometimes God will take everything from us, because he needs you to realize he is the foundation in your life. He is the center of your life, not the promises, not the benefits. And Abraham willingly sacrificed his son. He was scared. He didn't want to do it. I don't know if you guys have read this story, but he was I honestly, if I was in his position, I would have been like, I'm scared, God. Like, I'm confused. Like, you gave me this promise. You promised me this. Why would you take it away? But see, he didn't doubt God. He's like, okay, God, you gave me this. And I know you, I trust you, and I know that you'll give him back. Because it says here in Hebrews 11:19, Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead, so in a manner of speaking, he did receive Isaac back from death. Isn't that crazy? The answer is literally God. we need to have that relationship with God where it's like, okay, God, I'm gonna put everything out there. If you're gonna take everything out, I know who you are. I know that you will get me where I need to be. And it's one of the things that has been very like eye-opening for me was the point where it's like, it's not about the promise, it's about God. Because I focus so much on the promise. I focus so much on the benefits that come from following God. But in reality, it's like, without God, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Without God, I probably would still have anxiety. I probably would still fear what tomorrow holds. But because I continue to grow in my relationship with God, and honestly, the first step I had to take was taking the time to read this. Here's my advice to you guys if you guys want to stop focusing on the promise and focusing more on God. Because if you continue to read all of these stories in the Bible, and just in this one, it says, by faith, Isaac blessed Jacob. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons. By faith, Joseph, when his end was near, spoke about the exodus of Israelites from Egypt. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. That's another one that I would love to talk about because he chose to be mistreated along with God's people because he had faith and he knew God. He was like, I'm going to stand against these people because this is what God is calling me to do. Because I know God. I know he loves me. And he's like, I do not deserve the love that God has given us. Let's be real. How many times a day do we sin? But God is like, I forgive you for that. I will forgive you. I still love you. How many times are we drawn from God and then God's like, I still support you. I still am holding your hand. I still have your back. I am still beside you. Even though you have turned your back on me, I am still with you. He continues to show us who he is. And honestly, that is one of the reasons why I'm like, God, I get it now. Yes, you promised me this, but what is the whole point of this promise if it's not for you? The whole reason that I want to fulfill these promises is because you have given me everything. You have died on the cross for me, and I didn't deserve that. I continue to make mistakes. I continue to let my emotions get ahead of me, but you continue to put faith in me. You continue to guide me, and it's just crazy because it's like, I really don't deserve it. We really don't deserve it. But God is like, I don't care if you deserve it. I love you. You are my creation. I want to be with you. Like, guys, like, just think about that. Like, we really don't deserve most of these things that we have. And as I continue to grow and continue to walk in the season that I'm in, I'm like, okay, God, it's you. It's you and me. Through every single thing that we're going to go through from this point on, no matter how many times the enemy comes at me, it's you and me. And I know that if I'm standing by you, nothing can go against me. So to conclude, this whole preaching is about, it's not about the promise, it's about God. See, the reason why we fulfill the promise, the reason why we want to fulfill the promise is because of God. The reason I want to become a worship leader is because of God, because I want to bring as many people as I can to God, because I don't want the end days to come and be like, I was too scared to do it. I didn't want to fulfill God's promise. And because of that, I didn't save these many people, and I could have saved them. And honestly, that's another thing as well, guys. Like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. It's like God can get you through anything. And as you continue to grow and understand that God is the center of everything, God should be the center in your life. If you know God and if you understand who he is and you have that relationship with him where you're like that, where you're like so close to him that it's like through every situation, you're like, nope, God, you got my back. When the enemy tries to come and tells me, or tries to bring somebody in my life and they're like, you're this, you're that, you're going against everybody. No. Okay, that's your opinion, but my God is bigger than your opinion. Okay? Ugh. that was fire, okay? Like, oh, God, you're amazing. Because, yeah, you're just amazing because, that was powerful. God can do anything. God is everything. So that's my advice for you guys. It's not about the promise. It's God. The reason we have the promise is because of God. So don't focus so much on the promise that God has promised you, but focus on God and then trust in Him that He will give it to you in the time that He has prepared it for you. You also have to take into consideration, sometimes God is just preparing you for that promise. For example, honestly, right now, I don't feel like I'm ready for my promise. I don't feel like I'm ready to go around the world and be worshiping God, leading people in worship, leading the Holy Spirit, and showing that life-changing event. Like, I don't think I'm ready for that. Honestly, spiritually, mentally, and honestly, physically, and in my life. Like, I don't think I'm there yet. And I have noticed that God has been preparing me for it. Like, there's so many examples, but I don't want to take up too much time. Because I don't want you guys to get any bored as well. Like, I want you guys to understand the message. But yeah, God sometimes, like from my first preaching, sometimes the seasons that we're in are needed to get us to the next season. And that's exactly another thing we have to take into consideration. God knows everything. We don't. So let's put our trust in Him. And if you can't and you find it hard, guys, the answer is in this book. And if you guys are ever just like, yes, I don't know what to do in this situation, message me, text me, my Instagram, DM me, Facebook, text me. I have all these social media platforms. And if you guys are ever in a situation where you're like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go next, I don't know how to deal with this situation, like, always know that I'm here for you guys through every situation. If you guys ever need me, it doesn't matter if you're like, oh, this is just a person I watch on Instagram, on YouTube. No, I am here to help you guys. And yeah, like, don't be afraid. I'm not this scary person. I'm honestly glad to help you guys, because honestly, one thing that I do wish I had in my season, and I am grateful for it in the seasons that I continue to go through as I grow with God, is the people around me that are constantly helping me. For example, I have amazing people that are surrounded by me that continue to guide me with what God has been telling me. And I'm grateful for that. And if you guys are also interested in how to grow with other people, just remember, you guys are not meant to walk this path alone. It is good to be surrounded by people who believe the same things as you guys. Like, surround yourself by Christian people. But like I said, I'm not going to say Christian. I'm just going to say people who have the same beliefs as you. Because, trust me, that is one thing that has been helping me a lot. Like, I'm like, okay, I don't know this answer, but then maybe somebody else does. And that has been very helpful. And I love every single person in my life who has been there for me. Like, I love you guys. Shout out to you guys, because through this season, it has been hard. It's been crazy, but you guys have been there for me. So I love you guys, and I'm so grateful for you guys. I think that's it. So yeah, guys, conclusion, it's not about you. It's not about the promise. It's about God. And if you want the answer to why, read your Bible. Get to know God more. Create that relationship with Him where you have this this faith, like, that nobody can get in the way of. Like, there's so many people in this Bible who their faith was so amazing that God allowed the enemy to take away everything, and then he still continued to have faith in God. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. It's in the tip of my head. I can't remember. Oh, I'm doing another preaching on him too. I'm sorry. But yeah, guys, I feel like the most important thing about this, and the main point that I want you guys to take away, is just to build your relationship with God. Because once you build that relationship with God, you will understand just who God is. And once you understand who God is, you won't even care about the promise. You're like, okay, this is just another thing that God needs me to do. And because He has called me to it, I'm gonna do it. And that is important. So if you guys were struggling with this like me, you're good. It's honestly something that I feel like everybody goes through, because sometimes the perks, the shiny things, are just so much better than that little, like, you know, chest box you have to like rip open and like, you know, clean, and like, you know, like sometimes we don't want to do that. But then sometimes you have to understand it's better than just the pearls that you see right there. Ugh, that was a good analogy, guys. Okay, guys, that's all for this preaching. Love y'all. If you guys have any questions about this preaching, go ahead and comment them. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Love y'all. Have a blessed day. Mwah. See you guys next time.